land development, and new construction projects continue to reshape the city of Atlanta. Due to the shortage of land available for development in the city, sometimes old structures have to be torn down to make way for the new, often erasing the history of what once stood. This is the case with this piece of land that sits off Ponce Avenue. This may look like an ordinary strip mall to many, but this land holds a hidden past that was vital in making the city of Atlanta into the world-class city it is now. We are here today to uncover the history of this site, once known as Ponce de Leon Stadium. Up until 1965, this was the center of professional baseball in the city of Atlanta.
From the early 1900s up until the 1920s, the Atlanta Crackers played in a wide variety of different locations off of North Avenue, not far from here on the campus of Georgia Tech. Their home until the early 1920s was actually at Piedmont Park. Their stadium burned down, and there was a very wealthy concessionaire named R.J. Spiller, who decided he was going to build a concrete and steel masterpiece that would rival even the other major cities on the minor league circuit. The Atlanta Crackers were one of the most successful minor league teams in history throughout their 64-year existence, from 1901 until their final season in 1965. The Atlanta Crackers won a total of 28 minor league baseball championships. There's only one other team in all of professional organized baseball at any level that won more games or more championships than the Atlanta Crackers, and those are the New York Yankees.
In deep center field, 462 feet from home plate, there was an enormous magnolia tree. House rules stated that balls hit into the branches of this tree stay in play. Only 2 players were officially documented to have hit balls into the branches of the magnolia tree. They were Eddie Matthews, who played for the Atlanta Crackers and the Atlanta Braves, and Babe Ruth, whose New York Yankees came to Atlanta in the early 1900s during the preseason.
Earl Mann was known as Mr. Atlanta Baseball. He was known as the baseball genius from the South. He was a guy who rose up in the ranks of the Atlanta Crackers front office from the early 1930s all the way up till he became owner and general manager in 1948. It was under his watch that the Atlanta Crackers became known as the Yankees of the minor leagues. He was very innovative. He was very beloved by his ball players and highly respected by his other owners throughout the South, not only for his generosity with the players, but also his very progressive views on race relations and how the minor leagues really needed to embrace African American ball players.
Earl Mann passed away in 1990. Since Ponce de Leon Park meant so much to Mr. Mann, his family decided to spread his ashes under the magnolia tree in center field.
Ponce de Leon Ballpark not only had the only magnolia tree ever to be included within the playing field of a ball field, but it also had the unique distinction of having a set of train tracks running along the home plate to first base to right field sight lines. So behind us is the Atlanta Beltline, but many years ago was the Norfolk and Southern Railroad. And it was very, very common during baseball season for conductors of trains, if there was a game going on behind me, they would stop and slow down their locomotive to try to take in a little bit of the live baseball action.
The Atlanta Crackers were not the only team to play home games at Ponce de Leon Stadium. The Atlanta Black Crackers played here while the original Crackers were on road trips.
The Atlanta Black Crackers originated actually in 1919 as a team called the Atlanta Cubs. They eventually took the name of Black Crackers simply because even though they were originally called the Atlanta Cubs, people simply called them the Atlanta Black Crackers. So that's how they became known as. one of the best Negro League Southern baseball teams really in history.
The Milwaukee Braves moved to Atlanta in 1965. The new Atlanta Stadium, later known as Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, would be their home. This made Ponce Park expendable. Earl Mann said, "We now have a magnificent new stadium for both baseball and football. That means old Ponce has to go." In 1966, Ponce Stadium was demolished.
Atlanta is one of those cities that has always been too busy to eat. It's also always been too busy to really pay tribute or hold on to some of the great monuments of its past. We see a wonderful example of urban revitalization when it's on the grounds of the old Ponce de Leon ballpark, and that's important. But it's also important to recognize that Atlanta had a much richer history that goes back farther than the 1960s. And yet if we don't hold on to a portion of what we have bulldozed and raised over, we will quickly become a city really without a soul, without a sense of its own historical perspective and all of the incredible events that took place on the field that's right behind me now.